Hello and welcome to season 3 of It Could Have Been a Classic, and your favourite king of dog television is back, the king of all the shites, the lover of cancelled TV series and flop movies, and the things that went to the place that none of us want to think about, where I'm going to go in, liberate something from there, from the toilet of cancelled TV series, and hopefully look for that slight bit of potential in Could It Have Been a Classic? So today we're going back to 2001 with a TV series with a bit of controversy. A spin-off from the beloved X-Files. We'll go into that in a minute. This is going to be an interesting one. Luckily, I've watched all this, and it's been sort of interesting journey of where I've been with this. So, first thing, please subscribe to my channel. Please give me a like. It helps getting the videos out there. Please give it a share. And I've done the standard YouTube trope of putting that out. So let's get on with it. Well, season 3, we're here. 12 episodes of absolute diabolical shite that could have had that slight bit of potential. Welcome to Could Have Been a Classic season 3. And I've repeated that numerous times. Right then, so here we go. The Lone Gunmen, 2001. Now, this is a strange one, is this? And I tried watching this week, but first we'll go into the history of the programme itself. I think this was cancelled way beyond its time. I'm looking at Wikipedia now. I have done some research into this, so The Lone Gunmen is an American conspiracy fiction thriller drama television created by Chris Carter and Vince Gilligan and Frank Spotsnetz. The program originally aired from March 4th, 2001 to June 2001 on Fox. It's a spin-off of Carter's science fiction series, The X-Files. Right. I think I did a big cover. I have made a video on The X-Files. So let's get back into this, because I will probably go into Millennium as well, actually, another sort of spin-off from the X-Files. Right, the series revolves around the 3 characters of the Lone Gunmen: Melvin Frohike, John Fitzgerald Byers, and Richard Langley, also known as Ringo. A group of investigators who run a conspiracy theory magazine they had often helped FBI Special Agent Mox Folder on the X-Files. Series overview. Whereas the X-Files deals mainly with paranormal events and conspiracies, the Lone Gunmen draws upon the secret activities of other kinds, such as government-sponsored terrorism, the development of surveillance society and corporate crime, and escaped Nazis, and a monkey that sent them a letter where they went and helped this super intelligent monkey. Don't even get me started on that one. Right, so the Lone Gunmen. So let's go into the characters. Byers was born in naming Berta after his father. I'd lied his namesake, but he always had suspicious about the real cause of his death. Now, Byers got inspired by the JFK assassination, which he's like the quite straight guy amongst the 3 of them. You know, he could have been an FBI agent or something. You know, he's quite a, you know, he believes in the right thing, which is quite an interesting character. Melvin Frohike, he used to be an acclaimed tango dancer in Miami. On giving up the tango, he toured the country with hippies before founding Frohike Electronics Corp, specialised in cable intrusion software. I love Frohike. He's great. Fancies Scully. Richard Ringo Langley was he's the computer genius. Now we get on to the 2 added characters. Eve, the femme fatale thief who sometimes works for the Lone Gunmen trio, although sometimes she is their rival. The alias is her alias is an anagram of Lee Harvey Oswald. It was later revealed in the X-Files episodes Jump the Shark. I can't go there till the end. And Jimmy Bond, he was like the Muslim man. He was a bit dim, but he just followed it. He hung around with him because he found him fascinating. And he did all like the man stuff. So, right. So where did we start? The series was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia, and in New York City. Right, so I'm going to start this first. We're going to go into the the 9/11 controversy, because Chris Carter he's had a lot of questions about this. In the pilot episode, which aired March 4th, 2001, rogue members of the US government remotely hijack an airline departing Boston, planning to crash it into the World Trade Center and let anti-American terrorist group take credit to gain support for a new profitable war following the Cold War. The heroes ultimately override the controls, foiling the plot. The episode aired 6 months prior to September 11th attacks. Now, there was a big thing about that because I remember watching the pilot episode a few years later, and it did, obviously, you start thinking, obviously, got nothing to do with it. But it's sort of, that's this is around the lone gunman. I suppose the pilot episode is what makes this what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's interesting. It really is. Now, we will go off into government conspiracies shortly. So, and that is sort of like it's so like tied to the pilot episode, which it does. I have to say, it does make you wonder, especially reading that. I'm not one for conspiracies. I love looking at conspiracies. I like researching them and looking into it. But I think it's sort of a path you've got to be very careful where you go down. A lot of us can put patterns together and think we know the answer, and then something will come and upturn it all. So, but I am open-minded. Of course, I'm a big believer in UFOs, and I'll go into that for another video. So, this is what made this interesting, right? I mean, I remember seeing an interview with Chris Carter, and he was getting really annoyed about it, you know. So, it's I thought I'd go to this first because I don't want to, because I remember watching that and I was in tears what I saw. It affected a lot of people I knew. It was a terrible day. I came in and I saw the plane crash on the news, and I didn't know what was going on. And it was about 5 minutes into it when I turned the TV up. I thought, my God, I saw second plane, and I thought, my God, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, and all them poor people, and that it was truly a horrific day. And my heart goes out to everybody and their families. It really does. And I've never forgotten. And I don't think the rest of us will. So, but I'm not here to go into the whole American government thing. So let's get back to the lone gunman universe. But I just thought I had to get that out of the way first. The series was filmed in New York and Vancouver. Right. So there was 13 episodes. Yeah. And by the 13th episode, there is a cliffhanger and then it sort of finishes in Jump the Shark, the X-Files episode, which I am going to have to go into that shortly. It was released on home video, not home video, DVD. We did get a set in the UK, actually, because I remember buying it. I've still got it. Reviews. The Lone Gunmen received generally favourable reviews from critics. The New York Times gave it a favourable review, stating it was well done, shrewd, filmed, edited, and written. Los Angeles Times gave the series a moderately positive review, saying a bit of it is pretty funny. Aaron Bailey, writing for DV Talk, awarded the show 4 stars. About the show's reception, Vince Gilligan, the co-creator of the show, I have such fondness for the Lone Gunmen. I think it ended way too soon. I was crushed when the Lone Gunmen got cancelled after its first season. The Lone Gunmen to this day is a show I'm still proud of, and I will always be proud of it. It sorts of points to an interesting phenomenon about television. You can't really tell in advance whether a show's going to work for an audience or not. The Lone Gunman, up against anything that I've done before or since, sometime film, I guess, being the best thing to put, it just didn't click with an audience, which is pretty strange since everybody was watching the X-Files at the time. It just wasn't getting the viewings, was it? The pilot episode, it got an award for the pilot episode for cinematography, you know. The show, it was strict terms of failure. Certainly only lasted 13 episodes, then was out. But I'm still proud of the show. We had a lot of fun making it. But the failure of that show, and I used the semi-finger quotes around the world, failure, because I enjoyed what we did with it. Doesn't really tell me much going forward. because that's so much of television, I believe, comes down to timing. Yes. So, right then. So you've got the standard three nerd guys, Frohickey and Ringo and Myers, the lone gun Byers. Sorry, you've got them, and they've got this really cheesy magazine, and this is sort of like the internet went out, but it's not like it is today, and they've got this magazine. They've got a couple of thousand people at the back called the Lone Gunmen. Which is, and they get into the whole government conspiracy and the black ops and the, what is it, the deep state, as we say. Now, I'm trying to avoid to going down that. I don't want to come across as being all conspiratorial and all this and flat earth and that, but I'm not going to go down that path. So, these three dudes have they've got interesting pasts. They know Fox Mulder. They first appeared in the X-Files in the first season, and you sort of gain this love for them because you think they're so cool. They're all high-teched up on surveillance equipment, into all the government conspiracies and the inner workings of the deep state. And basically every week they end up in strange adventures where they're sort of trying to print stuff for the magazine. They've never got any money, and it started first like in the pilot episode, you've got Frohickey, who's like they do the the Mission Impossible Tom Cruise thing where he's hanging, where he's hanging on the thing like that, and they get caught in this. They're after this Quantum 4 chip, and this is where Eve comes in, and gosh, she's lovely. She's played by Zuleika Robinson. She's English, and she is a babe. Now, she's a super cool babe. She wears leather. She's good with guns, and she's a hacker, and she's a thief, and she's got a dodgy past, which is sort of very interesting. She works with them and helps them, and then she works against them. And then you've got Jimmy Bond. He's like the usual dickhead. It's the muscle man. He's a bit thick. And he's got a good art on him. He's got this. He comes into it in the second episode when he's got this football team. They're all blind, and he's trying to get blind football off the ground. Which, I mean, now in the Lone Gunmen, there is a lot. The humour is sort of up and down. Whereas, like the X-Files, it's much darker, and I don't know, the X-Files, you just get I find with the X-Files, how do you say, that you got your teeth more into it than what you got your teeth into Lone Gunmen. Now, Lone Gunmen, there are some really good episodes, and there is a couple of doozers in there, like the thing with the monkey, sends them a letter and all this. But you do get to love the characters. Frohickey's like the little weird one. Byers is like your straight guy. Ringo's the paranoid computer genius. And they bring other people pop up like people they know. Now, sort of like we build through all these episodes each week where they're going around. Mulder pops up in an episode for a minute. You've got his boss, him from the X-Files, Mitch Pileggi. I forgot his name now. The boss in X-Files, FBI Director Skinner. He plays an episode where he's doing a sting, and they come into that. There is a few woke moments, but not woke moments. How do you say it's like there's one where this guy's going around blackmailing people. His sister was his brother, now is his sister, and they handle the situation wonderfully. Nobody's bothered about it, so it carries on. And I quite like that. It's not like today where some stuff's quite patronising. They dealt with this in a great way. Just goes to show about how things are different over time, like social attitudes and stuff. Now, when they sort of going around dealing with all these situations, and you do develop. It took me, when I was watching it, it took me quite a while. How would you say? It took me quite a while to get into it, because the first episode really kicks off, and you think you're going to be in for an entire series at this level, which is really good. And it does have that sort of X-Files. So sometimes that slow X-Files music in the background. But the humor's more prevalent in this. And they are these three nerdy type guys going around trying to expose the government and doing the right thing, But I think these three guys in reality would have been shot by now, I think, really. But you develop this love for them. They are quite clever and they stand the ground and they get through each situation. So, like when Eve comes into it, I think she's like to sex it up and adds the appeal to the series, and she's an awesome character, you know. But they sort of don't trust her, and they do. Jimmy Bond, the other character that comes into it, he's all right. He's just follows them along and ends up being with them because he's just coming out with crazy things of doing stuff in life. I think he's meant to be quite wealthy, but he doesn't sort of realise it. Byers' his dad, his episode where he fakes down, his dad works for some government department, and this is actually I think it's first episode where his dad's one of these like government officers. I mean, how many departments and inner state government agencies is there? No, is that where all tax money's going? Because there's like numerous like secret government departments all up to all kinds of naughty stuff, you know. I think my favourite episode is the final one because do you remember the spin-off series? Not the spin-off. Do you remember that series set in the 60s? I forgot the name, and I'm going to cover it, but I've got the DVD where they're investigating Majestic 12 and there's the Gangulons and the aliens. And it's like, it was sort of like the X-Files, but it was set during the 60s. Well, Frank Bock, who was head of Majestic 12, he's in this playing an MIB, right? Because in the final episode, they get called. There's this like guy who's a government agent or whatever. He's going down to this bar trying to seduce women and take them back to a hotel. And he works, I think, for Area 51 or whatever. And they get drawn into this, and they like it's fun. I mean, this is where this sort of it comes into it for me. They kidnap this guy, these three, and they have a studio set up as if he's on a spaceship, and they get the probe out, and it's really funny, and they get the information out of him, you know, and they sort of like drive off because they set up with bright light and sky, you know, the usual abduction scenario. They get the information, they're driving along in van. Their surveillance, their command, what do they call it? Command and control van. It's a Volkswagen van that got impounded in one episode when they were on surveillance. It got towed away, right? So they like gonna stick a probe up his ass, but they stick it up his nose. He gives them all information anyway. As they're driving along, they get stopped by his department at military, and they're gonna put a bullet back in it. They're gonna put a bullet in their heads. And he says no, because they mentioned Sierra Oscar 61, and he stops. But it all comes out, it's like this big setup, like, how do you say it? They're putting sweets down so they bite, because they're after her, you know. Now, this is where it's sort of, because it all ends on a cliffhanger. When we get to episode 13, it's like there's a big cliffhanger because they break into this secret government installation and they're after something in there. It's the golden treasure trove of everything. And when they get in there, it's sort of like they get caught, and who set them up? The Frank Bock, the secret, the MIB guy, the secret agent guy, because they want her. And this is the episode we see Mulder for like a couple of minutes. Now, she and Jimmy Bond, she goes find them because she makes out she don't care about anybody, but she does care about these three, and she turns up. And she basically says you're in too deep this time because they want her for some reason. So now I'm gonna have to go set how it finishes. Well, it finishes where they walk in some armed guards, and they paint the faces blue, put dots on, so facial recognition gets fools don't ask, but it works, and. That's where it finishes. She like goes in and gives herself up. So I am now gonna have to go, right? Because this is one is Jump the Shark episode. Right now, it is gonna be quite sad of what happens here. Right. This is where so they get caught, right? And that's where Lone Gunmen finishes. And it just says to be continued. Now, the episode, this is Jump the Shark, it's called. Right. The episode begins with Maurice Fletcher, Michael McCain on a boat in the Bahamas where he's accosted by armed men and his vessel is blown up. When he is rescued and detained, he approaches FBI agents Monica Rees and John Doggett, Robert Patrick. These are obviously the latest season of the X-Files, with information related to the super soldiers in exchange for his release. Doggett and Rees turn to the lone gunmen when Fletcher provides an alleged photo of the super soldier with the gunman recognised as Adele Harlow. That's the English woman who was in the lone gunman. A fellow hacker who went missing a year ago. The gunmen refused to believe the evidence, especially when they find that Fletcher provided. Although the agents continue to pursue the trail. Meanwhile, Harlow's murders a biology professor, cuts out an organ, disposes of it in a furnace after the gunmen capture her. She reveals that she had been experimenting with the immune system of sharks and had been grafting pieces of shark onto his body in order to become a living host to a biological weapon. His research had been funded by Harlow's arm-dealing father, who had commissioned Fletcher to find her and prevent her from stopping his biological terrorism plot. She further informed that he's another host whom she's trying to identify and locate before he can unleash his deadly payload. Once Fletcher realised that he's been used by Harlow's father, he teams up with the gunmen to help her find the second bioterrorist after a few false starts and chases the gunmen, corner the bioterrorist. With only a few minutes before the virus is due to be released, they realise that they lack the time to destroy his virus-filled organ and therefore pull a fire alarm, causing large emergency doors to seal shut the simultaneously containing the virus, entrapping them with it. Their sacrifice earns them a final resting place in Arlington National Cemetery, where Fletcher, Doggett, Rees, Harlow, and Darla Scully, Walter Skinner, and Jimmy Bond pay their respects to them. And that's it. So they all get killed off. Now Chris Carter and Frank Spotsy, the Fox executive, wanted to kill them off earlier on, even in X-Files, and even when they got their series got cancelled. They didn't want them in the X-Files episodes at all. It was like they'd gotten really funny about it. So they killed them off. And it's quite really, because where it finishes in episode 13, right, in the final, all about Eve, right, this is the secret. It never explains how they got out of that situation. Obviously, they must have got let go when they got her, and then she escaped, and then they didn't see her for a year. So that's what I assume happens now. Now they're all meant to be like died as heroes, and they've been put in the cemetery, Arlington. It all comes out in that as an alternative universe. In the comic book adaptation of the X-Files season 10, which takes place in an alternative universe after the X-Files events of I Want to Believe, it is revealed that the lone gunmen are alive and well, having faked their death during the events of Jump the Shark. The group was aided by the FBI and have since been working underground, aiding the US government, for instance. Langley mentions that he was responsible for the Stuxnet virus in 2010. The season 10 comic series is not considered canon due to television, the 10th and 11th season reaffirming their deaths in the series. So I'm just going to go down here. Production, Jump the Shark was written by... The episode title is a humorous reference to the phrase "jumping the shark" coined when Fonzie did when Fonzie did a water ski jump of shark pen on the television series Happy Days. The phrase is used to describe that shows that have peaked and are in decline. Executive producer Chris Carter said that the title's tongue-in-cheek and further stated that it was their way of lowering the boom on anybody who thought that he did. He further stated that the series was good until the end, even after the departure of Duchovny. Various plot lines leaked before the episode, the most notable being the death of the lone gunman. The choice to kill off the trio was controversial. Gilligan himself later admitted, "I still think we made the wrong choice on that one." Spots this later said, "I can't say I regret killing them off. As you know, no one was really dies in the X-Files. But I do feel, Tony, it was a mistake to end the episode on such a somber note. I wish we'd ended it on a laugh or a smile. The actors who played the lone gunmen complimented the script. Hartwood admitted that the episode would have either featured the trio's death or would have featured them walking off into the sunset without hobo bags over our shoulders. Ultimately, he concluded that I was glad that we were killed off in the end. Dean Haglund said that he liked the way we were sent off and called the ending cool. I don't know. I think, I mean, it is. I'm sorry, I've had to go into all this because I've not seen Lone Gunmen in a very long time. It must have been. It's been a lot of years since I last saw the Lone Gunmen, and so I've watched it. Now I didn't have to get my DVD out. The whole 13 episodes are on YouTube. And what's sort of interesting about it is that I've been watching a couple of days, and I have been in and out with the series. I got a bit bored with some of the episodes, and then there were certain episodes that drew me back in. Now, I suppose there will be people who are massive fans of this series. Now, when these characters were in the X-Files, I absolutely adored them. You know, when you first saw the Lone Gunmen, and the name of them is so cool, the Lone Gunmen. You know, and I liked them. I just fell in love with them characters. They were just awesome. They were interesting. But it's a bit of a mess, isn't it, going towards, like, when you go through, like, when they're in the X-Files, and then you sit through, like, the episodes of the 13 episodes of the TV series. I mean, it starts with this superpowering episode, and then it sort of drifts down, and then it goes back up. Like, the final episode is very good, and it leaves you hungry. It's a shame they should have done an episode 14. The characters are awesome, even the two. They added, it all works together, you know, and it could have been an independent show, but I think the problem was that the X-Files, because it was so well established, that it overrid. It was like the daddy and mother show of the Lone Gunmen. It's a shame the Lone Gunmen never got a chance to grow. And I think they should have gone more, like, I know they were more grounded in certain ways about government conspiracy, like the deep state, whereas the X-Files went into a lot of weird stuff, and, you know, like the one-off stories and the big global conspiracy of the alien invasion and the smoking man. I think it would have been good to bring a lot more, leak a lot of that over into the Lone Gunmen, and they could have been going at this from another direction, you know, like, whereas Mulder's trying to get to the center of the conspiracy, they're coming at it from another way, and I think that could have worked wonderfully. But I think that's why people probably switched up, because they were expecting more X-Files. Now, like I said, when I was watching this over this week, I was getting bored with some of the episodes. You know, I don't know why. I was getting a bit, I don't know, I just couldn't really get into it. And there's, like, for about 4 episodes, I just were like, yeah, all right. You want worked up for it. But then when you sort of got into later episodes, you started sort of going, you know, in the right direction. But when you got to this final, like, episode where they all died in the X-Files, which I've watched this episode, and it's just such a shame. They should not have killed them off. Now, I think Lone Gunmen could have done really well on a 14-episode yearly series. You know, instead of 22 episodes, I think 10 to 14 episodes per season. And I think the Lone Gunmen could have survived at least 5 seasons. Because I think the X-Files, really, it took a lot of the stories away for them to go down. Every week, it's just, more or less, it is quite similar each week. You know, and there is back history with the characters, which I wanted to delve more into. I mean, there is potential with the Lone Gunmen, and I'm not going to knock it, because it stands justably right on its own. It really does. And when I first saw the Lone Gunmen, like I said, you know, awesome characters in the X-Files. Maybe they should have stayed in the X-Files. But I think they took a chance, and they really gave this series a go. Now, why is this a classic? Because it had potential to be so much more. I think there were certain factors that worked against it that I think, because like I think this was sort of released like going towards end X Files. People were getting the X Files audience were waning at the time. We were all getting a bit. Even I think by season 7, 8, I stopped watching X Files. Yeah, I used to tune in every now and again because it used to be on a Tuesday night on BBC One at 9 o'clock, and it was massive viewing. Was the X Files in the UK? Everybody couldn't get enough of it. I remember being at work. Did you watch X Files last night? But over years, we started getting a bit bored with the conspiracy, and I like the X Files because of the one-off stories. Like the weird stuff. That's what I adored about the X Files. I think that's its strength. The conspiracy sort of started all right, but they lost the way with it. And I think the Lone Gunmen, it got caught up in that sort of. I think if the Lone Gunmen has sort of been made, like say 4 seasons in of the X Files, I think Lone Gunmen could have took off. I really do. I think Lone Gunmen, we might have got a full 5-season run, but I don't think 22 episodes would have worked for Lone Gunmen. I really do. I'd say 10 episodes to 14. He's right. Finish each one on a big cliffhanger. Now, the ending, and in some ways, it is a nice way that they all died heroes saving the world, which is sort of interesting. And I like that, how they sort of died, killed them off permanently. But I think it was a bit of a mess, really. It's. I think, do you know what I mean? I know they saved the world and from that virus, that Stuxnet virus and all that, but I just think they could have gone out in more sense. I would have liked to have seen them walk off like they get the big score, they get the big story out, they make a load of money and they disappear. Or they've got a love interest. I would have liked to have seen something quite positive for end of these. But they are quite dark characters. I mean, they're not jumping about being happy. They're all like living in this shadowy place, which is sort of the appeal of them. But I really do think the X-Files sort of killed this series, because the X-Files covered everything, didn't it? It sort of killed their potential. And I think if, like, the Lone Gunmen had got out a bit earlier, I think it might have been a big hit. I really do. It's such a shame because there is so much potential here. Now, could they bring Lone Gunmen back today if they would say they didn't kill them off? Yeah. Trust me, today, I think Lone Gunmen would be a massive hit. If they brought them back and they did say, like I said, a small season each year, I think we'd be laughing. Because a lot of people are really into all this sort of conspiracies now and all this QAnon and all this other stuff that's out there. I mean, so much out there, from Flat Earth to whatever. I'm not a lot. If you people believe it, you believe it. If you don't, you don't. I'm sat on the fence with it all. I like to look at it, and that's all I'm going to say. Right? I'm not going to knock anybody's beliefs. I'm making this clear that something like the Lone Gunmen I think, would be a smash hit today. The potential in this is pretty good. You could even having them passing the flag on to some hackers and taking it on from there. They could be like the teachers of them, bringing like the deep state to account and all this. I really do think there's something in the Lone Gunmen. I was going to go with the negative on this review. I really was. When I was, say, 5 episodes in, I was going to be so negative about it. And then suddenly, somewhere in this, I changed, and then I watched a couple of X-Files with them in, and I got that feeling back for them again, that it restored them, Maybe for history, they've had the run, and that's the best way to be, and just leave it as it is. But the Lone Gunmen, it's such a shame that so much worked against it. I think it was wrong time when this was released. I really do. So could Lone Gunmen have been a classic? Yeah, it could have been. It could have been a classic. Finished on a great cliffhanger. The actors, the 3 of them, are just great characters. I mean, even the pictures at the back of me with them, they've got that, like, we live in the shadows type mentality, the paranoid and all this. Yeah, and the writing was very good. In some episodes were dire, but I'd say at least 9 of the episodes are quite decent. Yeah, and it's Chris Carter as well and Frank Spotnitz. I mean, there's a lot in The Lone Gunmen, and it's got a great sort of opening, credits, and I love it. So, yeah, I'm going to give it the title The Lone Gunmen. It could have been a classic. Yeah, definitely. So, Lone Gunmen, you passed the test this week, and welcome to season 3. I will be uploading a video once a week on Could Have Been a Classic. So we've covered The Lone Gunmen. I'm sorry this has been a complicated one. It really has. I had to do the bloody research on this because I didn't know they all got killed off. It was only when I started reading up on it this week. And then I had to dig the X-Files disc out to get it out so I could watch it. And that's it. So, right, The Lone Gunmen's done. And I will be back next week with more Could Have Been a Classic. Welcome to season 3. I know I've said this, but I'm really excited. I've got 12 episodes of some really interesting stuff. And yeah, we've saved The Lone Gunmen. So, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. If you're a fan or not, I look forward to hearing it. Let me know your stuff about conspiracies, because I love all that stuff. If you're a believer or you're not, let me know. And, that's the way it is, I suppose. I'm open to it all. You are. So, yeah. Right, guys. So, I will be right. Announcement time. There will be the Friday Night Discovery on the 16th next week for Star Trek Discovery. And then 2 weeks after that, the Thursday Night Mandalorian. So I'll be doing live shows. I'm getting a panel together now of people. So we're going to be on live for an hour to 45 minutes talking about this each episode of Discovery. So I will put an advert for that over the weekend, which I'm, quite excited about. And I'll let you know how that's going to turn out. And don't forget, Thursday, the podcast will be out. It's going to be an interesting one this week. And you'll have to tune in and find out. So I will see you on the next video, guys. And, look in the shadows and watch out because you just never know. Are we being watched or are we alone out there? Is the earth flat? Only the Lone Gunmen can answer that question.